Hello, welcome to Meet the Author, sponsored by Author Event Network in partnership with Bremerton Public Access Television. I'm your host, Guy Morris. Author Event Network is a nonprofit association of local authors who sign books at local festivals, fairs, and events. Our guest today is George Sorensen. Hi, George. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I've been excited to meet you. You're a new member of the group. I haven't really got a chance to know about your books and your story, so this is a great experience for me. I love it. I want to start, this is a great opportunity. Let's start with what inspired you to become an author?
Well, I think like so many people who get the bug to be a writer, you get it when you're young and it sticks with you your entire life. Now, for my experience, I have one event in particular that I think about when people ask me that question. I remember being in 6th grade, ready to go into middle school. We called it junior high back then. And there was a get-together of the entire elementary school, and we were able to go back to our 3rd grade class to visit Mrs. Bacon, and she had kept a big book of some of the things we'd written 3 years earlier. Now I had the perspective of a 6-year-old or a 6th grader looking back on a 3rd grader, and there was a story I wrote in that big block pencil type on that big thick paper, and it went something like this. The spaceship landed, a ladder came down, the Martians stepped into the mud. It was, a dumb little story like that. I thought it was hilarious. And what struck me was that you could write something down and 3 years later, there was the story. It was kept for all time.
Yeah, interesting. So that basically gave you the idea that there's, what do we call it? Everlasting life in your words.
Well, if you write the right words, you get more of an everlasting time out of them.
But you can live on after your legacy.
You can, and plus I captured something that was funny when I was younger, and it was
still
even funnier looking back on it.
Interesting. That I talk to authors all the time. We do these interviews all the time, and it's interesting how many of them really got the bug in grade school.
Oh, sure.
And my story is different, but it's always fascinating to hear how for so many people the roots go back that deep.
Well, they do, and part of it's because you're learning to express yourself in language and then record it. I think that's part of it. And I wasn't particularly good in English classes going through school. I could never have been an English major. I would have barely gotten through doing that. So I don't think you have to be sort of structurally taught how to write. It's something you have the urge to learn, and you learn in your own way.
I think it's a compulsion it's not the English language that we fell in love with. It's the storytelling that we fell in love with. It's the ability to evoke the imagination of somebody else.
It is, and to record it and interpret it in your own way.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating. I was lousy at English too, and if it wasn't for English editing tools like Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid, my editors would really hate me way more than they do now.
Well, when I write a manuscript and I think it's ready to be edited, I will hire a professional copy editor to read through it and give me some input on it. Then I'll correct it and then maybe hire a different copy editor to give me another perspective.
That was one of the lessons I had to learn, which was how many editors it took to correct my work.
Or to redirect it, too.
to clean it up and make it presentable.
Right. It isn't just a matter of correcting the spelling and the grammar and the
typos and
punctuation.
Blah, blah.
It's the flow of the story. In some cases, a good editor will say, why don't you switch this around or take this paragraph out or maybe bring something that's later in the book up earlier to make it flow better.
Well, let's switch a little bit up. What kind of genres do you write? I notice you have your first book here, so we'll talk about your first book. Is this the only genre you want to write, and I know you're talking about doing another book. Tell us a little bit about your genre.
Sure. Actually, this is my 4th book.
Oh, okay.
It is. The first 2 books I wrote were about freelance writing, how to be a freelance writer in the business environment. The first one was titled Writing for the Corporate Market. And the second book was titled Power Freelancing.
Okay.
So this was back in the 1980s when I was working for corporations, doing marketing communications, as a technical writer, as a marketing writer. I was producing industrial videos. And I could not find any resource that I considered to be contemporary and really address the problems of being someone who was freelancing and doing this writing. So I wrote these 2 books. Next, I wrote a history of an Army unit in Missoula, Montana. This was a group of black soldiers who were buffalo soldiers who tried to replace the horse with the bicycle. So, and this is a true story. So I wrote the history of the Buffalo Soldier Bicycle Corps. It's called Iron Riders, iron being the iron bicycle that they were riding. So that book came out from a small press.
Okay.
And this is my 4th book, and this is narrative nonfiction. So it's a little bit different because it's more of a sort of a memoir, but it's also a book about cooking, so it falls into that category too.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's a very interesting kind of spread. And we do get a lot of requests in the booth for nonfiction, so I think that's going to be real. You're going to be real. We'll just point down to George. So you want to talk to George?
Yeah, please do. Now I can tell you how I came up with this story.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so some friends invited me over for dinner, and these are people that owned a house that was bigger than mine, and they had a kitchen that was nicer than mine. And I arrived in their kitchen, and they had one of these electric spits on the counter, and it had a pork roast, but they were using a wild boar recipe. And I was kind of amazed that they could do this. And I got to talking with the character I call Bjorn in here. I do change some of the names of the people. And he said, "Oh, Sorensen, God, don't you know how to cook? Yeah, we're gourmet cooks. We can teach you how to cook." They became alarmed that I did not know how. And so we organized themed dinners to teach me to cook, and invited other people to attend and bring their own dishes. So we started with Northern Italian, then we did South of France, but then we branched off. We did a Charles Dickens Christmas dinner and had pheasant pie and figgy pudding. Then in the summertime, we did a clam bake in a trash can. So we got a brand new trash can and layered in the seaweed and the lobsters, potatoes, the corn, everything you put in a clam bake, lit a fire under it in the driveway and cooked it that way. Well, I called poison control to see if the galvanized metal in the can was going to poison and kill everybody that was eating. And the poison control said, "No, you're good. You go ahead and do it." We also did Tex-Mex, and one person brought rattlesnake enchiladas. And when I mention this, people always say, "Well, where do you get the rattlesnake?" I go, "I think it's in chapter 7. Why don't you buy my book and read it?" So I ended up writing this all down and telling the story years later, and it's gotten a good response. Everybody says, "Are there recipes in it?" I go, "Yeah, there's about 14 recipes, pretty much one for every month that we go along." And the book has a romantic ending. And sometimes this piques the interest of someone who's just not sure whether they want to buy the book or not. I go, "Well, what happens is I meet the girl of my dreams, and we end up making apricot jam and winning the blue ribbon at the Minnesota State Fair." And that's a very competitive fair. It's a big one too. So I'm giving the ending away, but I think that's okay. There's enough. That
sounds a lot better. Some people will go to the dinner party that turns eyes wide shut. So you don't want to go there.
No.
Well, that's fabulous. Well, it sounds like an actually very interesting social environment to get together and have these sort of, we're going to learn to cook by exploring these different kind of things. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Now, it was fun, but there was also chaos in the kitchen. A lot of people argued about pretty much everything you brought up. They wanted to bring the dessert instead of one of the entrees, or they thought the wine should be this kind of wine rather than that kind of wine. But when a question like that came up, I explored it. I went to a big wine store in Chicago when I was down there and spent half a day being led around by one of the clerks. And that experience is in here. I got interested in mushrooms, so I visited a mushroom farm. And it's the weirdest environment you've ever seen. It's a farm,
but it's all indoors.
A farm for fungi.
A farm, good way to put it. And the mushrooms are grown inside of big plastic bags that are full of decaying hay. And so they slit the outside and the mushrooms grow on the outside. So stories like that are also in here too, to explain not only how I learned to cook, but also how I learned about the food. So
that makes me want to know, do I want to have mushrooms on my pizza tonight or not? But
yes, go right ahead.
Okay.
Just don't. But
it was good decaying hay.
Don't go out in the forest and find your own mushrooms unless you really know what you're doing.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Well, that actually sounds like a fascinating kind of experience. So for your next book, then it sounds like you build your books based on these experiences.
Well, it's worked out that way.
Okay.
Since I quit doing all the corporate work, I've had far more time to work on my books. And in some cases, I have manuscripts that have been sitting on my computer that haven't progressed from the first draft. The next book comes out February 24th, 2026, and the title is The Cello Who Loved Me. Oh, it's about a cello. Yes, I can tell you a little bit about that book, and I look forward to everyone hurrying to get a copy of that when it comes out.
We'll cover that one in a different interview. How about that?
Well, I can just briefly tell you how.
Sure.
It starts.
Give us a teaser.
Here's a teaser. I was hiking on the Camino de Santiago pilgrimage route in Spain.
Okay.
And met
story of it in and of itself.
And we met a man who gave a lecture about the cello that lasted an hour, and I was so enamored by this, so moved by the experience. When I got home, I started playing the cello, and that book is about that experience.
Interesting. Well, the cello is, I was a musician for many years. The cello is one of those instruments I always wished I had the time to learn and never got the chance to. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful instrument, and to hear a cello played well is, especially in person where you can feel the vibrations in your chest.
Exactly.
Is a very moving experience.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounds fascinating. So now in your books, do you have themes that you try and build in? So what would you consider to be sort of the key themes that you would kind of bring into this?
Right. Now, as a writer, I don't start writing thinking about what the theme is. I think the theme comes out gradually as you go through the drafts.
Okay.
And I've found that the story does that too. I don't know really what the story is about until I've finished writing it.
Oh, interesting.
And this is, it turns out this, one person described this as a detective story.
And why is that?
Because I was looking for something and I didn't know what. Was I looking for satisfaction in cooking? Was it in the people, the social environment? It does end with this story about meeting Susan, who not only was the girl of my dreams, but,
she could cook.
No, that hasn't proven to be the case. yeah, I know. She may be listening in. You don't know.
You never know.
I hope she doesn't see this. Yeah. So I think as the theme goes, I don't think of it in advance, but you can pull it out later. It's like symbolism. Symbolism is whatever you see that you think is symbolic. That's true. Same with my books, I believe.
So you're discovering your themes, you're discovering your symbolism as you're going through and writing the book. You're experiencing it as you're writing it.
Yeah, I just tell the story, and I think those things come out naturally.
Interesting. Well, tell us about then. You mentioned some characters, you changed some names, but these are just friends and cooking friends. So was there some activities that they felt that they needed some anonymity on? Or
Well, not everybody got along all the time, and some people did some things that were... they weren't necessarily, I'll say, proud of exactly. They weren't illegal particularly, but they could have behaved differently. But those things end up being funny in retrospect.
Okay, so this wasn't the kind of crowd where everybody was friendly all the time.
Well.
So was there ever a time we said we're not inviting Bob back for the clam bake?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there were some things. We had invited some lawyers. I knew some lawyers, and they invited some other lawyers to come too. And the lawyers stood in the corner and talked about being lawyers. They just formed their own little group in the corner. And we tried to bring them in to talk to other people, and they wouldn't.
They couldn't talk shop, anything other than shop.
They were just talking lawyer business, and they didn't seem that interested in the food. So
I worked at Microsoft, and there were times when we would have dinner parties where you couldn't get them to stop talking about software.
Same thing.
And it was like, well, guys, we're not at work. The wives are here. Does anybody follow sports or music or garden or do anything? Do you have any other aspects of your life? And it was shocking to me. I even tried talking politics just to try and stir it up.
Yeah.
That didn't work well either. But yeah, I understand that experience where you can get certain professions are so absorbed in their work they can't really pull out of
but
that.
an antidote for that was changing up who we invited.
Yeah.
So there was a core group of 4 or 6 people, and then we'd invite different people. So it wasn't the same
There you
people who
go.
came all the time. We also asked that people don't sit together who came, so that you were
Interesting.
forced to talk to somebody
Somebody
else.
else.
And I remember one occasion I was trying to get one guy, his name is Jay, in here, who was one of our court people, not to sit with the person next to him. So I actually moved the chair, and he didn't know I moved it, and of course he went crashing to the floor. So you got to be careful when you're moving people.
Subtle things, yeah. So, this is interesting because I was never really the social person myself. I was always one of the nerds, but it's interesting but I do understand. I have worked with enough attorneys to know that if you're inviting one, you really want to keep them isolated. You got to keep them.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is to be welcoming and always start up conversations with people.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like an interesting experience. So tell us a little bit about what is about the personal experiences in that book, other than some of these other experiences, that made you feel like, I've got to write about this.
Right. Well, I think that I have thought about just that, about a lot of experiences that I've had. I have, for example, the idea of writing about my lifetime of hiking.
Okay.
And that in the future sometime will be something that I develop, because it's not only a matter of just, I'm going on a hike or a walk or I'm going here or there. It's the people you meet. It's how you feel about it, walking or hiking, because it takes a lot of energy and focus. It's a physical activity. It's a mental activity. If you're with other people, there's the dynamics of how the other people are experiencing things too, and that's reflected in a book about learning to cook or playing the cello or almost anything you do. So you could pick any part of your life, or there's probably a book in it, not necessarily a book someone else wants to read, but one you might want to write.
Right. Now, are you from the Northwest?
I grew up in San Diego, California.
God bless you, another Californian. All right.
Back
Yay.
when it was a little town, it was a little Navy town. Now it's a big giant town. The Navy isn't it's there, but it's not as prominent as it was.
I was born in San Diego as well, so we're
Mercy Hospital?
The Naval Hospital, yeah.
Oh, well, it's nearby.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Minnesota, and I was in New York City there for a year as well. I worked for the Rockefeller family.
Interesting.
Briefly.
Now, have you written? Seems like that would be a book to write. Something to write a book about.
It would be had I worked for them longer than 3 months. I was answering the mail for Nelson Rockefeller when he was being approved to be the vice president to Gerald Ford. I'm that old.
Okay.
And most people can't remember back that far.
Most people don't know that we had a president named Ford.
No, we didn't. Yeah. So I lived in Minnesota for the better part of 20 years. I worked for the 3M company, and working there as a freelancer for about 10 years, I helped introduce a new product called Post-it notes. They were brand new. They hadn't been on the market yet, and I was asked to be on the launch team for those. I walked into the office of the man I was going to report to, and he had these little yellow notes on his desk. And I thought, that's the product? I thought, well, that's never going to sell, because you could just get a piece of paper and a piece of tape and you do the same thing. Well, fortunately, I didn't say that out loud.
Because now they're in everybody's desk everywhere.
They're everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, I did that sort of thing. I moved to Los Angeles. I worked in composite materials, which are the floorboards of airplanes. I originated the composite material merit badge for the Boy Scouts. I worked for NASA for 2 years on the Mars program, and then we moved up to the Portland, Oregon area to Lake Oswego, where I worked for all the big companies up there, Boeing, Nike, and some others too.
Well, so tell us a little bit about your process as a writer. Now, so you're pulling from different experiences. You're obviously choosing which experiences that compelled you the most. This sounds like a really fun set of experiences with these dinner parties. You're working on something next. What's your process? Do you decide what you're going to write about, or is it just you wake up every day and you're just waiting for that inspiration? Tell us what works for you.
Right. It's always going on in the background. You know, I have idea for a great number of projects, and somewhere in my subconscious they're spinning around and getting spooled up so that someday I can write about it. I start out with an outline. I did this too, basically use the same process in the business environment, where I'd start writing down incidents or activities or inciting moments or the finale or something a character does. Then I reorganize that on a sheet of paper and gradually work it into an outline, and I write from there.
Excellent. Well, we have time for one more question. So tell us a little bit about your experience in selling directly to readers and what you're excited about in joining Author Event Network.
Right. Well, whether I'm at a bookstore doing signing or at a booth in a street fair or at a county fair or something like that, I just hold up the book and I say, I wrote this book. And usually people will then come and talk to you because they're interested that you wrote a book. Because most of them think, oh, I've got a book, maybe I'll write someday. Too, and we get into a conversation, then I can tell them a little bit about the book. So it's always fun to meet people who are readers. We always have something to talk about, and I always look to make a connection with them.
Well, excellent. And George, I'm so grateful that you've joined our group. We're excited to have you and excited for the seasons to come up and all the selling experiences. And thank you for watching Meet the Author. Come to meet all of the AEN authors during the summer event season in Seattle and Portland, and keep on reading.